A very good afternoon once again, everyone. Thank you for joining in for today's webinar. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here. And the topic for today's session is Law Office Client Management. It is a CPD webinar accredited for 1 hour of professionalism CPD credits. Repeating again that uLaw does not provide any substantiative hours. We only provide professionalism CPD hours, and the topic title is Law Office Client Management. You're all welcome to take a screenshot of this, or my teammate Steph will be sending out the topic name every 15 minutes once. She'll be sending it again at 2:15, at 2:30, at 2:45, and again at 3 p.m. when the webinar is ending. So you all don't have to bother asking on the chat for the topic names. So feel free to take a screenshot, or else we will be sharing it on the chat window as well. Great. I think it's been a while since we did a CPD here. Last time, for some reason, we had to cancel it, but we're happy that we're able to do one of it for this quarter beginning. And I thought it would be nice to start off a CPD topic with one of the basics that you would need in a practice management or in managing your practice. You can put it both ways. If you're using a practice management like uLaw, you can take benefit of downloading all the necessary documents that you will need to keep yourself compliant with Law Society. At the same time, also how well you can manage your practice. For those of you who can't hear me well, I request you to use the phone audio. I have shared the phone audio coordinates here on the chat window. So if you have any questions, you could use the chat window at any time for your queries, and we would be taking the questions towards the end as it's a CPD topic. It's quite vast, so we'd like to not break it too much. But at the same time, if there's anything that you'd like to stop us and ask, feel free to put it on the chat window, and my team at Steph would take it, or I would take it in the end. Great. So to get started with today's agenda, as I mentioned, since it's Client Management 101, we're going to see what are the things that are necessary to do to keep yourself compliant, at the same time manage your clients well, and also their data and their other information that you would like to store in your system or handle it for the Law Society purposes to keep yourself compliant. And it also involves generating several documents. So as part of today's agenda, we are going to see all of this. And starting off with client intake. Now, I know many of you are using the ones attending today's webinar at least. I know many of you are here using uLaw, and client intake has become very simple and straightforward with the introduction of client portal and also importing the client intake forms. So there are several ways you can do a client intake. I highly recommend a client intake to be done with keeping certain points in mind about the source of contact, whether you've received the client ID verification, whether you've got the date of birth and driving license or any other client ID from the client that you would have to at the point of intaking a client, and several other documents, that important documents, like, whether you want to get a credit card authorization, which is part of either a retainer's agreement or maybe a client payment, whatever type of payment that you're collecting. All the other important documents that you need to have on the client's file needs to be done at the time of client intake. Rather you go behind the client after the work was done. I always recommend to do this as step number 1 while you're intaking the client, as it saves you a lot of time. Now, when client intake is done, it's also gathering information about client, how they reached out to you, either through friend or through law society or through advertisement, whatever is the type. And you fill it out in the form or get it filled out in the form rather. And those are some small details that will help you to generate an important compliance document called source of contact for this client. While that is being done simultaneously, one other thing that I recommend you to do apart from client intake and keeping in mind the compliances that is involved in there, which is conflict check, which is very, very basic and at the same time important. So handling conflict check and source of contact at the same time, along with getting other letters like client ID and other documents, is extremely important during this step, which is client intake process. As you proceed further, you will start seeing there comes into picture group management, retainer letters, authorization letters, and whether you want to have an envelope, you want to have a cover letter, or rather you want to have like a maybe like a print of the client information to go on the file front page. You'll have to think of all of this. And if you're again using a software, these are available at one click button under contacts, under document generation. So everything that you're seeing here in the screen, you as part of today's agenda, you would be able to get it from the document management itself, right? So we're going to see what are these types of group management. How would you do? What are different types of client intake? What are the compliance documents? What are the necessary, other documents that you need to collect? These are what we're going to see as part of today's agenda. And moving forward, I'm going to talk about some of the professional obligations that you will have to keep in mind while intaking a client, servicing and communicating with them. While it all starts with intaking a client, what is the methodology you have adopted to intake a client is very important. Whether you use a paper pen method or you use a client portal or you send them a form, ask them to fill it, get it back and upload it into the program that you're using. Totally varies depending upon the medium that you're choosing. Whatever it could be the method or medium that you're using, it is very important to download or record certain information from the client in the format of, let's say, whether you're recording the meetings or whether your consultation calls, all the points are being noted down in the dockets, and you have a very detailed recording of conversation or correspondences with the client. That's definitely your step number one to do, because from that's where you will start building the file and you will start understanding what needs to be done in the file, whether it's doable or not, whether you're going to complete the intake and proceed with opening the file. There's so much that goes behind these detailed recordings and conversations or correspondences that you have with the client. And trust me, this initial conversation that you have with the client is one of the most important interactions that you have with them, where you gather as much information as possible so that it works two ways, where your client doesn't feel frustrated as you go back and forth asking them too many questions. Instead, you have set up one call or consultation and you've gathered all the information. It's not just enough you gather all the information, but you need to record it somewhere, and that's when docketing plays a role. So you have phone docket, you have scratchpad, you have different types of docketing that you can use to record conversations or consultations, whatever. And while you progress from there, you'll be confident enough to know whether you have a conflict or not. Now, if you're using a program like uLaw, conflict check again is a cakewalk. You're just going to literally go in there, click on the button that says action, take a conflict check and complete it. Either record it in electronic format in your drive or print it, put it in your physical file, whatever is the method, but do one of it so that end of the day, you know that you have ticked that particular box in the checklist for file opening. So once that's done, you can then start determining the fee you're going to charge them, whether you're going to collect a retainer or whether you're going to take it as a client payment. And that will in turn help you to draft your retainer agreements if you're collecting retainer. If not, the engagement letter at least should have these details of fee structure, the methodology or the method in which you're going to collect the payments, whether you're doing any, installments in here or whether you're doing it directly as final client payment into your general account. Everything is involved in this third step, which is determining the fee and structure. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Sorry, just pausing for a second. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so that's part of the fee structure and creating these retainer letters or engagement letters where you have everything nicely drafted from the conversation or consultations that you have recorded into your dockets, and that confidential information is being maintained. At the same time, you want to draft an agreement before you start the work so that everybody is on the same page and there's no ambiguity here in terms of any of it. May it be the payment style, the payment method, whether you're collecting them in parts, whether you're collecting them in trust, or whether you're collecting them in general. So all these basic ifs and buts gets clarified at this particular stage, which is the client intake, service, and communication. That is why this is one of the most important and basic step and considered as the foundation of trust being built with you and your client. Now, at the same time, let's say you're in the process of intaking a client, and while you're in the process of doing a conflict check, you come across some conflict with this client, maybe with the additional party or maybe with the client itself, and then you find out that you cannot take this file anymore due to the conflict involved. And you want to give it off to someone, maybe you are referring them to your client. So at this point, what is it that is most recommended to do here? This first thing is to provide a non-engagement letter to this prospective client you have in pipeline. So once you have provided them with a non-engagement letter, then you're free from any, let's say any agreement you've already written or, at least orally discussed from the initial consultations you've had with them. So one of the major points to keep in mind here is to provide a non-engagement letter if in case you're not proceeding with the file for some reason, and one of the reasons could be a conflict. And also about some people, refer them to a friend or to a coworker or a colleague in the industry, and that way it's helpful for them to take it from there and move on. That is the part of client intake and one of the basic steps, but trust me, this is one of the most important. Like I said, this is the foundation that you lay to get to build the trust between you and your client. So if this step is as smooth as possible in service and communication during intaking your client, then I think you've already won the business with the client. As a continuation of client intake, service, and communication, the next part here is client retainer agreement. Now, this is only after you determine the fee, guys. Once you determine the fee, the method of fee, the type of account you're going to get it in, whether it's trust or general, whether it's even in trust, are you going to get it in parts, or what is the schedule and other things. So as you keep determining that, on the other hand, you will also start building the retainer agreement. Now, most of the times, people use a template, right, that is readily available in the program. Like, for example, if you take uLaw, we have retainer letters available for every matter under the compliance tab. I don't know how many of you use it again, but these are Law Society compliance documents, again, in quotes. So they're very helpful. They are mandatory to be used if you're collecting retainer into trust account. The first thing you want to do is send them a retainer agreement. Of course, you can modify it according to your requirements and details that you've discussed with the client, but make sure that you are at least drafting one or modifying the one that is available, and you keep in mind all these points that's jotted down here. The nature and scope of matter. What are the responsibilities of yourself, your client? What is the schedule and course of representation? Do you want them to be paying in parts or in full, at the beginning or at the end, once the work is started, or before or after? What preferred method of communication, how frequently you want to communicate with them, and what is the turnaround time for a response, and different things that you want to mention on the agreement. So this is the first piece of paper that you, after client intake, of course, this is still part of client intake, guys. So as part of client intake, retainer agreement is one of the most important letters or agreements or contract that you're drawing between you and your client to establish that relationship with confidentiality and agreeing upon the terms. So please make sure you keep it as detailed as possible, but at the same time, nobody wants to read pages and pages and pages together. So you want to at least put them in points, keep them crisp, make sure your client can read all the important points that's highlighted in here. That way, they're going to be happy. See, most of the clients, so you take yourself as an example, as you're in a service, you're getting some service from a vendor, and you don't want them to bug you for all these small things, right? But at the same time, it's important to you because you are the one who's servicing the client, and you want to make sure the agreement in place contains all these points. So tomorrow there's something, you can make sure that you're holding things, at your end, especially holding high. So these are some small tips that I could give you, but make sure your retainer letter is in detail, but at the same time, not too boring for your clients, which is like 10 pages or something. So try to keep it detailed, but also short. When I mean detail, you can even enter just these points. These are in detail, good enough, but this you shouldn't be in paragraphs where they have to read pages and pages and pages. So this is just my suggestion, but at the same time, you'll have to pick something that's compliant with Law Society too. Now, so moving on from the client intake process, we are still very much in the client intake, but moving on from the retainer agreements and the other service and communication, we are in the part for compliances. The compliance documents that Law Society needs, and what are these auditors looking for, especially when it comes to client intake. I have seen mostly people asking for trust reconciliations, general reconciliations, ledgers, journals. Now, what is it about compliance documents for client intake. Does it even matter? Absolutely yes. There are different types of audit. Let me tell you, we have a separate webinar on that, but just to brief you all, there are different types of audit. Now, as you all know, there could be practice review audit, there could be spot audit, there could be financial docs audit, financial management audit. There are different types of audit that you can be posted at. And when you're at practice review, they would like to see everything right from client intake to your, literally to your balance sheet. So, I mean, to the journals and ledgers and the financial records. That's what I mean. So, at this stage, my very recommendation will be to start from scratch while you're in the beginning stages, while you're in the intake. Start your compliance level at this point so that as you grow ahead or as you move ahead, you will grow more into being compliant with Law Society. That's what they want to see. That's what you want to be too. So you'll be safe. Now, here are some points that will help you stay compliant with Law Society when it comes to client intake, service, and communication. Client ID verification. You're getting a piece of client ID or verifying it. It's not that you're taking a look at it. There's a separate document that talks about client ID verification. Now, if you're using uLaw, of course, in the end, I will take 10 to 15 minutes to showcase all of you how it works in uLaw. But if you are using uLaw, you will find client ID verification right under the compliance document under a matter. That is important. Your client intake form is important. If you're collecting retainer into trust account, retainer letter, very, very important. Along with it, providing them a retainer receipt is also important. Everything here is important, including conflict checks and then conflict resolution document. These are all documents. It's not just a method of doing it, but as you do it, you will end up having a document in uLaw and you download them, put them in a file, or put them in your drive and move on. Source of contacts, conflict check, client intake form. All these three are available under contact, under compliances, or document generation. The rest of it, client ID verification, retainer agreement, retainer receipt, and source of contacts, not source of contact, but the non-engagement letter, closure letter, these are all available under compliance, under matter compliances. Now, as we move on, we've already discussed about non-engagement letter, but I think I didn't brief about source of contact. Source of contact is something, when a client reaches out to you saying, hey, I get to know you from the advertisement that you had posted on the Google or your Facebook, etc., right? So as you keep moving on in the conversation with the client, you quickly make a note of the source, how they reached out to you. Could be through their friend, could be through a law society contact, wherever they found you. It will be helpful for you to note it down and go from there. So apart from this, the client contacts needs to have a quarterly update. You want to make sure that the client statement of activity, accounts, bill of cost, yearly report, financial statements, these are all being sent to them from time to time. Now, you might ask me, why a quarterly update? There can be some ongoing file for months together, for years together. You never know. So you might want to raise those statements, activity, accounts, bill of cost, and send it to them so that they'll have an update. You might have to give a quarterly update, yearly update, final settlement statements. So that way your client deserves to know what has been happening in their accounts from the last few months, years, etc. And once you're done with the file, with the matter. Closure letter, make sure you draw one, give it to them, saying thank you for taking the services with us. We are pleased to have known you, worked with you, rendered services, whatever you want to type it in. We are looking forward for more business. As of now, your file has been closed. You provide all such information in a piece of paper, so that is like the goodbye note to them, saying, for now, bye for now. We are good. Everything has been done. So closure letter, like how you provide a non-engagement letter at the time of not engaging with a client, closure letter is also important to note or provide a note to them saying that we are done with the file, the balances are zero, everything has been either refunded or utilized towards your file. Here's a settlement statement and accounts. Thank you for your business and see you soon. Yeah, so that's how a closure letter has to be. And I mean, it could be different too, but these are some points to be noted. Definitely provide them with a settlement and accounts. Now, in uLaw again, you have all of these documents. You are not sitting and creating anything, typing anything, or formatting anything. Everything, every single document that you see here is readily available in the program, either under contacts or matters, either under compliances or under document generation for you to make use of. If you have not been using it, high time, please start using it. You will feel the difference automatically. Now, the next one here is, as part of client service communication, how often do you reach your clients? Is this file, first of all, a short-term file, something within the 3 months you're completing, or this is something that is going on for more than 3 months where you have to do a quarterly review? So you want to reach out to your client if the matter is open, give them at least the last quarter review for them to know what has happened in their file. And at the same time, if there's some annual basis for trust in general that they want to know the ledger, you might want to give that as well, as discussed in the previous slide as well. And you have documents to send otherwise also. You have retainer letters, which you've already given. You have invoices, you have receipts, you have, every time you collect payments, either into trust or general, you want to provide them with a receipt. And if you're moving money from trust to the general, you want to make sure you're invoicing your client and then moving that funds from trust to the general. So you want to keep a copy of invoice with you. At the same time, also have it sent to your client saying that this is the invoice that I've raised for this interim period, and this is what we've moved out of your trust account to the general, and this is made as our legal fee now. So you want to make sure you provide them invoices, receipts, quarterly updates of all statement of activity, settlement statement, accounts. That should cover all activities in trust in general. They need to know what is the money that comes into trust, goes out of trust, general, etc. Now, you might ask, why as part of client service and communication all this, even though it's financial data that we are talking about? It's just that your clients are, more keen to know about their status with your firm. So they would like to have an idea as to what is the current status of their file. So it is recommended by Law Society that if there's an ongoing file, it's good to know what is their current status. All right. So along with these quarterly review statements that we're talking about, There's also yearly update statement that you might want to give to some clients whose files open more than a year with their summary balance and etc. And also a final settlement statement upon closing a matter that we discussed in the last slide, just making sure all their legal fee, activity as in the dockets, everything is recorded in there. And a final closure letter is to ensure that the client understands that the matter is fully closed. They have nothing to do with them anymore, right? That you have nothing to do with their file or with them anymore. So these are some points that you can keep in mind as you progress with a file. That will help you to get the service and communication better with the client and harmonize a little bit of, positive attitude here with the client. So they'll feel more comfortable. They'll feel that trust relationship between you and your client starts off with, of course, confidentiality of maintaining their information and this service and the extra mile that you go with the service and communication. So these are all readily available in the program. So why not use it in today's scenario? Everything is just available with one finger click button. So you might want to just use it and provide them with all these updates so they're pleased. So this is where the client returns back to you for another service or refers you to another person. So you have both referral and repetitive clients or repeat clients with this type of a service communication that we spoke about. And of course, don't forget your Christmas cards and other season greetings, etc. If you move a little bit more in deep with a little bit more in depth with the contact management or client management. Now, there are different types of contacts, we all know. It's not just always client that we would add as a contact. There could be additional parties, plaintiff, defendants, landlord, tenant, respondent, applicant. There could be different types of clients. You might want to specify them all under a specific group. If you're again using uLaw have default these groups. And you can also add more groups as you grow into a practice. Vendors, co-workers, again, very important to be added. You might want to, add these vendors into the contacts. So tomorrow, if you're doing a disbursement, you can really add them easily. And as you keep moving forward, you have ghost clients. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard about ghost clients. Even for me, it was sounding funny initially, but trust me, ghost clients something who approach you for some work, and they're called prospect clients, right? But let's say after initial phone call, they haven't gotten back to you, or they haven't really, considered your services or something for some reason. You never know. That time, you will move them from a client to the ghost client list. So you can ensure to provide them non-engagement agreement, because later after a couple of months, they shouldn't come back to you and say, hey, I spoke to you 2 months back about this particular file, and I was under the impression that you were going to take care of it, but I never, my hearing was here, but I've never heard back from you. There could be different scenarios that you might come across. Now, especially, this is one of the scenarios. This is where people make some mistake of not providing a non-engagement letter to a ghost client. So a ghost client is someone who hasn't gotten back to you, and it's better you provide them with a non-engagement letter. Now, I do have one question, which is totally related to this particular line that we were talking about. So I'd like to quickly check that. When a ghost client has had a matter entered, do you need to manually change them to client from ghost client, or does it happen automatically? It has to manually be entered. You close the matter, close the file. You can actually archive it also. The matter has to be archived, and then the client has to be manually moved from client to ghost client. So before you archive the matter, I would recommend you to click on compliance document, and you can also download a non-engagement letter and give it to them. I hope that answers your questions, Jamie. To move forward, we're talking about creating different groups. Now there are by default all these groups so far I've spoken about in uLaw. Ghost clients, representative, vendors, co-workers, plaintiff, defendant, applicant, respondent, landlord, tenant, etc. So these are all available by default. If you're entering anything further, you can always add new groups and call it accordingly. Let's say, for example, you are a SABS lawyer, you want to add insurance companies, you might want to add physiotherapy clinics as into your contacts. So you can always create new groups saying insurance companies, and you can keep adding all the respective insurance companies that you're working with under them. Likewise with the physiotherapy clinics too. So these are all, that's something that you can modify according to your practice or your need, and manage all of these to a certain extent that you are able to effectively communicate with your client. That is point number one. And at the same time, you're able to draw the necessary compliance documents to keep you compliant and with the law society, which also includes the last 2 points: source of referral, the source, whether you're making a note of source of contact and drawing the source of contact document from contacts. All these counts. So please make sure that you've kept that in mind. Slowly moving on to conflict check, as we have another 22 minutes here. So I want to take the last 10 minutes, like I said. So we have another couple of slides here, and then we can move on to you. Over here, we're going to talk about how do you handle conflicts, so conflict check especially. Now, step one is to definitely complete conflict screening in the contact level before you come to the matters. And you have the various client names in the contacts. So as you keep searching, you click on action to do the conflict check. This is if you're using uLaw, absolutely. If not, you complete a conflict screening by searching for the contact in your matter, in your docket, in your documents, throughout the program that you're using, or let's say you're all using Excel spreadsheet. You want to make sure you search all the folders for any conflict that is available. Step two is ensure that you record the following. We've already discussed this in slide 1, but I'm repeating it again. Number one, while you're handling the call, making sure who's handling it, whether you or your assistant or your coworker or anybody else from your office. You want to have the client's information noted down, like their basic information, address, phone number, so source of contact. And, you have all of these clearly documented so that you can take necessary steps to be done upon discussing with them. Then all other things involved in here can be, noted down as well. So you're able to understand the information or the scenario better. And then you proceed on to building the file from scratch from there. So there are some points that you have to keep in mind that we discussed very much in the first slide, which is very similar to here. But one of the points to keep in mind from this slide is who's handling the call. If you are not a sole proprietor, let's say you're a firm, you have an assistant, you have an coworker, you have different staff available at your firm. That is when this plays a major role, where you'll have to ensure who's handling the call and also to note down the conversation in detail. And it'll be helpful for you to build further information from there. Okay? As you all proceed further, one of the last few steps for client intake service and communication is client analytics. Analyzing your clients so you can understand them better. That would help you to reveal several things that you never know about them, about your business as well. So you will know, for example, you will be doing several area of practices. Let's say you're doing real estate, you're doing civil, you're doing litigation, family. By the end of the day, this will show you what is your fee book by category. For example, as you're seeing on the right-hand side, there are 6 widgets with different categories aligned with the client. This particular category at the bottom left, which talks about fee book chart by category, gives you family law to be the top at 26%. That too in Mississauga. Then you have family law. These are all based on your area of practice that we are choosing when you are recording a matter. You know, you're so used to giving matter title. Sometimes you might not be clicking on the right area of practice. You might either give other, or sometimes we might not give the right one too. You might just click on save and proceed with docketing. But trust me, taking that 10 seconds to choose the right option will later give you a report saying, these are the fee, this is the fee chart or fee book chart for different categories of or area of practices that you worked this year. So you know what is on top, what is mild, or rather average, and what is at the bottom or low. So you can understand analysis can be done based on this information that is provided. So you know who's providing you more profit, where do you flourish more, which is your weakness, which is your strength. Comparing the revenue with the expense, knowing how much profit you have made, and source of clients that gives you whether you're able to, view whether most of your source of contact is either from word of mouth or advertisement. So you will be able to then decide whether if it's advertisement, then is my marketing expense making a justice there? So which is called ROI, return of investment. So as I'm investing into my marketing, am I having more, source of contacts from advertisements? Let's say I'm investing monthly $500 and I'm getting 2 clients from advertisement, but 8 clients from word of mouth. I might as well not spend that much on marketing, but improvise on my client service communication so I know that word of mouth and referral is going to be making sense, right? So these are some small points sometimes that we miss to notice, and it's helpful. The categories are required for their end of year report to LSO2. If you're talking about the law area of practice category, Jamie, then I think yes. You might want to make sure the categories are updated from time to time. Yes, that's right. Moving on to the next one, as you all know here, we have always to talk about benefits of using a practice management. Now, one of the most important benefits here is to reduce the overall cost. Yes, I mean, you're technically spending for the software, but it's reducing your overall or your overhead cost also. I can put it both ways. Your overall cost is also reduced, and your overhead cost, which is, let's say you're having an accountant, you're having an assistant, you're having several people do all of this for you. You might have a marketing agency. You never know, but in the long run, as you start using this specific practice management software, you find the benefits from maintaining your records and reduce the overhead cost, and overall cost of ownership will be significantly less. Then also, of course, efficiency in practice. You're able to maximize the efficiency in practice because you have a practice management now. So that saves you more time, and you can put it towards what really matters to you, which is servicing your clients, right? And it's also compliant with LSUC, which is could be LSO or LSUC, which is part of Law Society of Upper Canada. And you have practice management system that provides you all these documents with fingerprint button, which is something that I'm always in awe with. And don't tell me you tried downloading something, but it is empty. But you really have to go through the process of inputting the data to have the output filled. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult, right? So for us to gather the information and provide it in documents for you. So that is one thing. And lastly, practice from anywhere. That is such a boon, especially post-COVID. I know many of you could not go to your offices, could not access your office systems or otherwise. So with most practice management systems utilizing cloud technology today, you can practice from anywhere, access any of your information, provided you have, of course, your user ID, password, and the access to the system. So that being said, those are being benefits of practice management. If you're already using one, I'm glad, please make the best use of it. If you're not, it's not too late. You can always sign up for a free 30-day trial from uLaw. You or your friends, feel free to always reach out to us. Okay, so I'm just taking the next 10 minutes as an opportunity for me to showcase all of you whatever we discussed about client intake process. But before that, I do see there's more coming in. I have to wait to take more of the comments or questions. But just moving on, showing you all my favorite uLaw practice. Just wanted to use this opportunity as we have another 12 minutes to end the webinar. And I want to do the justice by showcasing all of you what is available in here. So as you go into uLaw, contacts, since today's webinar is on contact management, I'm not going to touch accounts, but you're going to see how much you can do to keep yourself compliant in contacts yourself. And so let's take this particular client. Now, this client has only the first name, last name, some notes that I have entered. There's some community legal service, or this could come from existing client or from advertisement. Could be newspaper, internet advertising. You even have various options that you can select from. And as you proceed further, you want to give more details into this program so that you can gather this information and transform it, and we can rather transform it into the document that you're looking for. And for an example, let's say this is 100, City Center 5, Mississauga, Ontario. Okay, and we have some postal codes here. Okay, you want to add in the address, the phone number, and the email. That's it. So mostly it's there. If you want more information, click on more beside that last name. You can add in the marital status. You want to put the birth name. You want to put the birth date. you can choose what to add, right? And then you can save it. As you save it, just look at this form versus what was there before. It looks more completed rather than an incomplete information, because we are all mostly in hurry where we want to just type in the client's name, save it quickly, get into the matter, then I'll start working on the matter title and you go ahead, right? Now, I won't blame you because we are always in rush, but this is where Law Society plays a role. And this is where we play a role on behalf of them to point out to all of you saying that, hey, there's a compliance tab here. First thing when you want to do as soon as you create a client is to click on either action, do a conflict check. Just remember, surfacing through all of these matters, events, dockets. You're doing the conflict check. And as you do the conflict check, let it run in the background. Then you want to make sure you click on compliance and check other documents too. Okay, there's a source of contact. I just want to do it for today's date. I added only one client today, which is Mark. So you can all see what is there over here. The first thing I downloaded was Mark's conflict check. Just look at how many conflicts here. I mean, potential conflicts. They're not technically conflict because I purposefully took a name that has both Andres or Andreas or Andrea and as the last name and first name being Mark. So there's so many of these first name conflicts, last name conflicts, similar sounding name, etc. So you can save this into a folder, or you can print this, keep it in your physical file, or you want to do both, you're welcome to. As long as you're having good records of this somewhere when you're being audited to show to your auditor that, hey, look, I've done this, and that's it. And the next one that I downloaded right in front of you is internet advertising. So this is what I just downloaded for source of contact for a client who came to us today, which is Mark Andreas. And I actually said internet advertising, which is recorded, and I didn't add any other client today purposefully. It's only one, and it's 100% compliant with source of contact. So you even have today's date, the category, and one client added and 100% done, right? So if you have added two clients and only one of them is showing up, the other one will be shown under non-categorized. So make sure that you always categorize your clients. You add full information. Take the 2 minutes to complete the information form that you have, whether your client does it or you do it. That's why we have client portal in here. Send an email to your client and ask them to fill it in, and you will see all the information recorded here by them, right? So yeah, that's one tip. And then under compliance, you have other documents that you can download. All of this available in finger-click button. Then you have document generation, where you can download a client intake form, utilize it, send it to them, ask them to fill it, send it back to you. You can download it, click on import contact, go to upload client intake form. So just this page alone, look at how many documents you can get. Now, if you're religiously using them, right? Okay. Now, besides that, let's say you click on matter, go into the matter. The other thing that we were discussing about is the area of practice to get the analytics going. Now, I have purposefully put this in as an employment law because outstanding wages stuff is the title. I know many of you would end up doing other, and, or you might sometimes not put the right one, okay? So you might want to make sure that you're always entering the area of practice right beside the matter title. So you're well aware of what is your best area of practice, and you can find all of this under your analytics. Then you click on save. Here is where most of your client intake compliance documents available. Once you're into the matter is being created. Under compliance document, you have all of these where you can do the client ID verification, client intake form. You also have these LSO client ID verification form for individual, for organization, for sample monitoring, etc. Now, as you go in, you can see that this is the client ID verification form, which comes with pre-populated information for some of it. For some, you can, these are fillable PDFs, so you can fill it out. And the next one here is probably bill of cost. These are all, and look at it, we have also categorized saying these are client intake. Then these are quarterly statements. These are other where you have non-engagement letter, disposition, and other documents, right? This will give you a statement of activity. Let's just say quickly, you want to see a statement of activity, send it to your client saying you have your letterhead on the top, some details of the client file on the top. And as you go below, you know that these are your billable time. And as you go further down, if you had any payments, it'll also show them there, right? If you have made any past transfers, etc., will also show up there. If you have a complaints tab here, then again you have a document generation tab here that shows all of it, which is right from invoicing. Then you want to provide a retainer receipt, payment receipt. Let's say, for example, I get a retainer for this client for $500. There was an email transfer, so quickly add in the reference number. And then say received from Andreas Mark or Mark Andreas. You want to give them a receipt, so you can click here. Now, let's say for some reason you've forgotten to click there. Don't worry, you can always go into uLaw, click on document generation, and get the retainer receipt here. Or right in the center of the page, to the top, you have receipt. You can also collect the retainer receipt from here. Both will show you the same. So don't panic in case you've missed to click on the box. So you see both are same. The one I downloaded by clicking on the box and the one I downloaded from outside, they both are the same, right? Provides you the receipt provides the receipt that you have to give your client upon collecting the payment. Likewise, for the client, payment also works the same way. There are also the statements that you have available here, as well as under the document generation, right? You have the authorization letter, you have the file opening checklist, you have other letters, you have the client ID verification. Some things are nicely segregated for you under compliance tab, saying these are part of client intake, these are part of quarterly statements, these are part of other, and it goes on like that. And as you proceed further, there could be some with accounts where you'll have under accounting, you might have, like I said, I'm not going to talk about the financial stuff, but under document generation, you might want to make the best use of what is available here. If not for client intake, but you can go down to see your fee book and you know what you've done for this quarter and the quarter ending 30th June. You can download and see your matter analytics. You can see what is the best area of practice, where you've done more. So other than that, you can also do, if you go down, you can see the total. See, shows you like in a pie chart, or it also gives you a revenue category where, it gives you the most of them from family law or others. So this is what happens. I probably had a lot of matter where I didn't categorize, and I don't know what is this others. Probably this others could have been getting into more percentage with my real estate, making it 18%, making my family law 16%, whatever, you never know. So it is always recommended to not have the revenue category or area of practice mentioned. So make sure that you always mention that. So it'll be helpful for you to do the client analytics. What type of clients you have more, so you can focus on the others too. Or if you're more optimistic, you want to improvise on the same, you can utilize the analytics that's available to improve in the revenue category that you want to or you wish you're doing well. Okay, so I think we are here to almost fag end of the webinar. So I request all of you to take a moment to look into your chat window to see if you have any questions. If you, please add it in over there. And also take a minute to please make a note of the title, where Stephanie has also been sharing attendance links, so you could use that. And the topic for today's session is Contact Management 101. And we also have uLaw providing you other updates. So I request everyone to stay back for about a minute or two. Please don't drop immediately, as we'll be sharing some useful links for all of you after we finish sharing the attendance links. Thank you so much for joining in this afternoon with us. We have more new topics coming up, so I request you to stay tuned. You'll be getting a reminder every Friday, 15 minutes before the webinar. So the webinars are standard. It's from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I request all of you to probably block it on your calendars, and it'll be nice to have all of you attend the regular webinars so you'll benefit overall from using the program and betterment for your practice management review, etc. Okay, so I think it's most of it. Don't see any questions from anyone other than Jamie. I see you have more questions. Stephanie and I will email, or we'll wait for your email and respond over there. I'll give you a call. So otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in there. Oh, the name of presenter. Thank you. My name is Gayatri, and yeah, I've been with uLaw. Many of you might know me. So nice talking to you, all of you. Have a wonderful weekend, and look forward to talking to you all again the next Friday. I know it's always been a monologue, but today being a CPD especially, I have to keep it short so the other viewers who are seeing the recording will benefit from here. I'm stopping the recording, but kindly hang in tight for another minute or two to see more links that will be helpful for all of you. Thank you and have a wonderful weekend.